Say hi, everybody. Can you put this back in my ear? Good morning. I just wanted to go over your literacy narrative revision assignment, which is the final big assignment for this course. Hopefully you have your literacy narrative from the beginning of the semester where you examined your journey with reading and writing, speaking and listening, all those things. Now remember, literacy narratives don't have to be about liking reading and writing, right? Often literacy narratives include struggles with reading and writing, or why you don't like it and how you have changed. So for the literacy narrative revision assignment, in order to revise, I'm giving you some guidance that you can either expand your literacy narrative, like place your story in a larger context. For example, if your story includes struggles of you being a bilingual learner, put that in the larger context of bilingual learning in the US, okay? Or if you wrote about your bedtime stories with your parents, put that in the larger context of why it's important for parents to read, or why it's important for parents to read to their children at bedtime. You can do some research on that. Another expansion idea would be if you wrote your literacy narrative on a learning disability that you struggled with, talk about how learning disabilities impact students these days as well. The other choice you have is to focus your literacy narrative. You can focus on a single aspect of your narrative. So let's say you wrote your literacy narrative and you included the fact that you had a learning disability and the fact you became an artist through your love for reading and writing. So you want to focus on one of those two aspects. Or let's say you talked about all of your family members and how they were involved with your literacy journey. You could just choose one. If you talked about school, you might choose a specific teacher or a specific class to really expand on. And the way to expand those ideas is by research, or the way to expand or focus. Okay, those are kind of the two ways you can revise. You can do interviews. Those are great for literacy narratives. We had talked about this before in the semester. Talk to a previous teacher, talk to a sibling, ask them specific questions about you and your literacy narrative. You can also do research. For example, if you wrote about your learning disability and you want to expand that to learning disabilities in public schools and how it affects literacy narratives, like literacy journeys, you could do research on learning disabilities in education and see what you find about that. So it's an exciting way to revise, I think, because you can either kind of talk about an issue that you feel passionate about, or you can focus really specifically and be more creative with your writing. For me, when I look at these two ideas, expansion versus focus, expansion is probably going to be more formal research to expand your topic since you're placing it within a larger context. So if you're like an analytical person, or you like a lot of organization, like expansion might be a good choice. If you're a more creative person, then focusing might be a good choice, because when you focus, you obviously have to add a lot of descriptive language, adding dialogue, and all of those components. Your revised literacy narrative should have similar qualities to the first one. You need a clear controlling thesis. If you're struggling with that, please let me know. It's hard to say that a literacy narrative is argumentative, but you should have a thesis that frames the whole story. For example, how did your learning disability affect you in the past, and how does it affect you now? How did your learning disability, how does it fit in this larger context that you're expanding? Things like that. You definitely need supporting examples, so you'll have to find more of those. You need at least 2 direct references to one or more of the literacy narratives we read in class, or if you find a literacy narrative online or a song that you would consider a literacy narrative, any resource to support your story. Also, interviews would count. I'm just looking for 2 sources referenced in your paper that support what you're saying. It can be any source related to literacy narrative. I'm looking for accurate MLA citations. Usually I can help you more with those one-on-one when we see each other face-to-face. So what I'm looking for in the citations is that you've clearly tried to do them correctly. You can use Purdue OWL, the website. That will really help your Sonnet is yelling out the window back there. Background noise. Okay, back to this lecture. All right, you need both in-text and end-text citation. So remember, the in-text citations are the parenthetical citations where you have the author's last name, page number, and the end-text citation is the longer citation. And you can find all of that information on Purdue OWL. One of my students said they actually looked on YouTube for a video. They're a more visual learner, so there were some videos on YouTube that helped with learning how to do the MLA citation. You also want to really work on your descriptive and figurative language to enrich the narrative. Think about how you could use symbolism, metaphor, simile, hyperbole, understatement, personification, all those things that we took notes on earlier in the semester. Your story should have a clear narrative structure. So think about, are you going to do it chronologically? Are you going to do it by theme, like by subtopic? Are you going to do it by source? Like maybe your first paragraph is really getting into one of the sources you found and how it relates to you. You want to decide the timing of your story. This will be due on Blackboard no later than Sunday, May 3rd at 11:59 p.m. If you need help with it before then, please let me know. I will probably post another check-in lecture next week, but this is all of the new information you will have for the rest of the semester. So if you're watching this lecture and you have been checking your grades on Blackboard and you're doing okay, hanging in there, you're almost done, okay? I will see you hopefully soon.